Hi, this is Involved Innovation YouTube channel. In this video, we will see about how to create a Connect for application using React.js. For this, we are not gonna use any library. We are gonna build everything from the very scratch. I'm gonna use the styled components. That is the only external dependency I'm using. You are free to use or you can ignore that even. So styled components is just to make CSS as the components. Here I'm also going to make one more advancement, that is you can able to give the input number of row, column and then connect value. Before creating the application, first we will see about the demo of the application whatever we are gonna build. This is what we are gonna build. So here in this case it comes with the default value. The default value is row number 5 and then column 7 and then connect 4. So connect 4 means like if you are connecting 4 either vertically, diagonally and horizontally, then you are the winner. So the rule of the game is pretty simple. The rule is you need to connect 4 coins either vertically, horizontally or diagonally. So for example, let's take we are playing with 2 players and now it's a player 1 turn. Player 1 uses yellow and player 2 uses red. So I'm dropping here and then player 2 drops here. So if it goes on like this, then obviously the player 1 won because he connected 4 pieces vertically. So if I refresh and then if I start a brand new game, this works even for the horizontal one. So here in this case player 1 won because he set it up in the horizontal fashion. So likewise this also should work. So if the player connects a coin in diagonal row, then he's considered winner. The player 1 won because he connected this diagonally. It comes with the default 574 configuration. You can change it. So if I change this row to 7 and then column to 10 and then connect to 7. So if I create a brand new one, player 1 is winner because here we need to make 7 connections. And yeah, this is what we are gonna build. For that we will create a brand new project. For this I'm not gonna use create react app because create react app is like little bit older and then there are like further advancements there in the space. So I'm going to use Vite. So I have the folder and then I'm opening this in the command prompt. I will enter the command npm create Vite at latest connect n, and here I will select React and I will use the JavaScript. Now we have built the base project. Go inside the connect end project and then open this in the Visual Studio Code. This command will open this particular folder in the Visual Studio Code. If you don't have this setup, you can go and change in your environment configuration. So what you need to do is you need to go to environment variables and then you need to copy the Visual Studio install location, the exe path, and then you need to put it there. So if you have did that, then the code dot will work. Now we have created the skeleton project and open the terminal, new terminal here. So first we will install the dependencies. So to install the dependencies, go to the folder and then enter the command npm install. This should install all the dependencies defined in our package.json, and we also need another dependency, that is a styled components. After this we will install that dependency as well. So now the dependencies are installed successfully. Next you need to enter the command npm install styled components and then --- save. So this --- save will mark this dependency in the package.json. If you go to the package.json, you can able to see the style.components now marked as one of the dependencies. So now we have done with our initial project setup. Now we will run this project. So to run the project, npm run and then give dev. So here why the npm run dev is working, because you have the scripts file here. Dev is as one of the scripts and this will use the Vite. If you give npm run dev, then this script will be executed. So go to this. Now we have our base project setup. Now we will do cleanup here. So here go to the app.js. You don't need anything, so delete everything here, and then you don't need the logo and you don't need the React logo. So you can delete this from the assets. So react.svg, this is not needed here. Delete this and delete the React logo here as well, and you don't need the Vite.svg and then delete here as well. And you don't need the app.css as well, because we are going to use the styled components. With styled components you can build the css as a components. So I will delete the app.css as well, and then go to main.jsx. Everything is perfectly fine, and go back to the index.css. You don't need all this stuff. So instead of that, I'm having a base css. So copy and paste this. You can grab all this code in the GitHub repository and go to app.js. Here I will just give hello world for now, and then open this. So you should see the hello world. Everything is working fine. Now go back to the project. Now we have done with our initial setup. We have also the styled components, and now we will create the elements. This is where the styled components comes into the life. Under the src folder, I create a folder named elements, and here I will create a file named elements.js. And here I need to bring the styled component dependencies. Import styled from styled components, and first I'm gonna build the cell element. So here this is the cell element. So here I have used push and relative width and predefined width and height, and here this is the key part. So this after will give us the edges. So here we will get the circular edges because of this after. So now we will create the components. So this is where we will place all our React components. Create a new folder, and I will name this as components. And first I will start by creating a new component, that is cell.jsx. So this is something coming out of Visual Studio plugins. So you need to give RAFCE and enter. So this will build a React functional component for us. So I'm going to use cell element which we have built. And next we need to enter the circle. So here we have our square, and inside we need to put the circle. For that I will create a circle element in the element.js. With the style components you can get the properties, and then with properties you can pass in properties to these elements as well. For example, here in this case I want to pass in the color property to the circle element. So to do that you can get props and then props.color. I can call this circle element, and then here I can pass in the color green, and go back to the project, refresh this. We won't see anything because we are not referencing this in our app.jsx. Cell.jsx. So now you can able to see we have a square, and this is where the after came in place, and then here we have created a circle, and we have passed in a value color, and we have sent the green color. So this green color sent to the element.jsx. So that's why we are seeing the color. So here the background color we are getting it from the component. So here we are passing in green. So if I pass in red, then I will see the red here. So this is a nice way to pass in a value to the styled components. Now we have built the cell element. Now we will go ahead and create a row. So now we need to have this cell inside the row. So I will create a row component, new file, and row.jsx. And for this we will create a row element in the element.js, and go inside the row, and here give row element. And inside the row element we can provide the cell, and then we will create a board component. So the board component holds the row element. We will go ahead and create another component named board. So for this we will create a board element, and also we will create the container. So the container is the holding piece which will be there in the board component. And go to the board.jsx. Here instead of the div tag, create board element, and cover this board element inside the container, and inside that put the board element, and right inside that we will put the row element. And now go back to the app.jsx. The correct way is to call the board.jsx here instead of cell. So you don't need the cell import, we just need the board. So now we have our base project set up, and this is where our piece goes. So now we have base project. So this base project has board, and board has row, row has cell, and app.jsx references the board.jsx. Now we will create the context. So why we really need the context? So there are like different third-party applications which provides the context. For example, we have Redux, JuiceStand, and different state management tools or third-party state management tool available. So here if I have one component, I can just pass in the state. Also, I don't need any state management plugin or framework needed. But if you have like a number of components, passing in this state will become really clumsy. For example, if I need a state which is created in the board, but if let's take the row is not needing it and just cell needs it, so here because of this hierarchy I need to pass this state from board to row, and from row I need to pass it to cell. So think if you have like 15 components, then you need to pass from first component to the 15th component, so you need to keep on passing it. The in between 13 components might not really need that state reference, so this is why you need the state. So you can able to save the state using a context API, and then you can get that value at any component. We will see this in action. So for that I will create a new folder named context. So this is where all our context goes in place, and then I will create a new context file named game context.jsx. To create a context, you need to use the create context hook. So first I will use constant game state context, and this is the real game state. So you will use the hook create context import. So here this create context is coming from the React application. So here we also need another context for dispatch. So dispatch is the one where you will persist the information to the state. Create a provider, export constant game data provider, and you can give any name of your choice. I'm just using the game name provider, and then here you are getting in the children, because this game name provider will wrap the component. Here the game data provider will get a base component, so here we will pass in the children reference, and here we will use reducer game data as the data and the game data dispatch as the dispatch. And here this is where we will be passing in our game reducer function, and then the second is the initial value. For now I will just keep it as empty object. Third is the optional parameter, we don't need this. So here we will create a function constant game reducer, and this gets in two parameter. One is the state, another one is the action. So this action we will be passing in from our component, and based on this action we can have different switch block. Based on this action we can perform different actions in our application. So we need to return this game dispatch context provider. So here return game dispatch context dot provider, and inside that game state context dot provider, and here I will pass in the children. This gets the dispatch, so value equal to game data dispatch, and here the value equal to game data. We will create a custom hooks, and then we will use the use context hook here. So here export constant use game state, we will pass in the use context here, and this gets in game state context, and we will create another hook dispatch, and here instead of game state context this is game dispatch context. So now we have created our base context. So first we have used create context to create state and dispatch, and then we have used the reducer function, and then we have created a provider. This provider will cover our base component. From there we will be passing in the children, so whatever this game provider covers that we will be getting here, and then we will be using the use reducer. Whenever you want to do a particular action, you need to send that in the action object in the type, and based on that we can perform the action. And here we are covering this with game dispatch context and then game state context, and then we are having the children object here, and then we are using use context hook to create the custom hook use game state and use game dispatch. So the use game state hook is to get the data, and then use game dispatch is used to persist the data in the state. We will create our initial data. So I have created this initial data. So the initial data has the board data. So here the board data is a 2x2 array. So here in this case we have like 5 rows and then 7 columns. That's why we have this in the board data. So 0 represents there is no coins yet, and then 1 represents player 1, and then 2 represents player 2. And then we have game status, and then row, and then column, and then connect. So the game status is to define is there any winner. If there is -1, that means if the game is not yet started or it is ongoing. If it is 1 or 2, that defines who is the winner. If it is 1, then player 1 is the winner. If it is 2, then the player 2 is the winner. The player turn defines which player turn currently it is. Now we have created our initial data. If you are using this game data provider inside the cell, then that state will be only applicable to the elements which are placed inside the cell.jsx. So I want to make this game data provider as top level as possible. So I am just putting this inside app.jsx. We are gonna use this state in board. So board is our main. So board has everything. So we are gonna use it here. This board is the children object which we are passing inside the game data provider. So if we go to the game context, so this game data provider gets in the children. Eventually we are wrapping this children with a game dispatch context.provider and game state context.provider. Go to board.jsx. From now on we can able to get the game data. You can use the custom hook whichever we have created, which is use game state hook, and here from this we can get the game data. So now we got the game data. This is coming from the game context. So if we go back to the game context, so this is the custom hook which we have created. Go back to the board.jsx. So here I need to create the row based on the game data. So I will just cut this out. If game data is valid, that means if you have a valid data in game data and game data dot board data. So this is the 2x2 array which we have created, and then if we have value there, then I want to have game data dot board data dot map. So this map function has row data which is an individual array, and then we also have the index. And one key thing to note here is, here I am using this parenthesis. If you are using flower brace, then you need to make sure you are writing a return statement. If you are using this parenthesis, you no need to write return statement. That means we are returning whatever we have defined inside this parenthesis. This gets row. Now we can pass in the key. Inside key I can pass in the index, and then row data equal to row data. So now I got this. Now I will go inside the row data. Since I am passing this row data, I can get this row data here, and we can use the row data here to get the number of cell. And if row data is valid, and row data dot map data comma index, and here also I am using this parenthesis, and here cell, then key equal to index, and then data equal to data, and then index equal to index. So now we are passing this data and index to the cell.jsx. So we can get this value here. If the data equivalent to 0, that means there is no coin placed yet. So we will define a empty string. That means it is white. We don't have anything specified, so the background color will be like blank. If data equivalent to 1, then we will show the yellow. So yellow is our player 1, and then if data equivalent to 2, that means if it is a player 2 who have placed in this particular cell, then we will show red. If we want to change this, and you can make this as a parameter also, and then you can get this option from the user. You can create a drop down, and then you can get what color a player can choose from. All those things you can able to do. So for now I'm just using yellow for player 1 and red for player 2. So now everything should work fine. Go back to the application. We are not seeing anything here. So here we are getting some error. We have missed in flower brace here. So if I wrap this game data inside flower brace, so in this case I have defined 5 rows and then 7 columns, and if I change this to 1, so we are seeing yellow. If I change this to 2, then I am seeing red. So this is fine. We have our working project. So now we have built the state. Now we have built row, cell, and then board. So now we will try to add logic. Now we need to drop the coin. So the drop the coin must happen on the cell level. If I select this particular column to drop, so we need to check if there is any coin here. If there is no coin here, then we need to check the below row if there is any coin. If there is no coin, then you need to check the below row, and if there is no coin, we need to check the below row, and after that, if there is no coin, we need to check the last row, which is in the bottom. If there is no coin, we need to place it here. If I select any particular column, we should not place the coin there, because in our Connect 4, by the gravitational force, if you put a coin in a physical board, it should drop in the lowest row possible. After that, from there, it should start building. So we need to use the same logic. I will start with our cell to pass in the value. So this is where the game data dispatch comes handy. So now here we need to process some data from the cell component to the context. So for that, I am going to use game dispatch. This is our custom hook which we have created, and we need to get game data dispatch. And whenever you click a cell element, that means you are gonna drop in this particular column. So if you are clicking here or here or here or here, that doesn't really matter. As long as you are clicking in the particular column, that particular column you need to drop in the coin. So here you need to write on click function. So on click of a cell, you need to perform the drop coin. So here we can use the particular column index to get which column we have clicked. So here we will create a function, constant drop coin function, and this takes an index, and here we are going to use the game dispatch. We are performing the action based on type. So here if you go to game context, we have a switch block, action takes in type. So what you need to define is, you need to define a type here. So type, and here I will define a constant folder, because it is good to place everything inside a constant folder, all these particular actions. And I will name this file as game constants, and export constant drop underscore coin equivalent to, I can define drop coin. So now we have created a constant. So now this particular constant we can use in the type. So drop coin, we can pass in the value here. So the type is drop coin, and then the data is call index, and this gets in index. So go back to the game context. So here, so we need to write a case drop coin, and then here return drop coin function and state comma action dot data. So here in the action dot data we have passed in the call index. So first we need to define this drop coin function. This gets in state as well as data, and here we will also provide a default case. So if there is a default which is not defined, then you can throw error, throw new error stating this action is not defined. So we have provided the unknown action type here, and this is when you are passing in some action from a component which is not defined in the switch condition, then we will get a error. So now we will write the drop coin logic. So the drop coin logic, if you are dropping in from a particular column, then we need to place the coin there. For, and then here let I equivalent to state dot board data dot length -1, because this is the index. So if you are putting in the complete length, that means you will get array index of the board exception, and then I greater than or equivalent to 0, and then here I minus. So if I go back to this board, so this is 0 0, this is 1 0 because the row is 1, and this is 2 0, 3 0 and 4 0. So here I am starting from this particular row. So here I am not starting from the 0. So if I am starting from 0, I am starting from here. If this has a value then I will check here. If this has a value, I will check here. If this has a value, I will check here. If this has a value, I will check here. If state dot board data, so here we have this array, and here we have provided the index I, and that is the row, and then data dot call index, and then if it is equivalent to 0, that means no one placed the coin in this particular cell, then we will be storing the state dot board data call index equivalent to state dot player turn. So if it is 0, then that cell is not occupied by either player 1 or player 2, then I am storing that player turn, and then I need to change the player turn. If the player turn currently is 1, then I need to flip it to 2, so I am just using break here. And then one key thing to note is, if you are dealing with the objects, then you need to create a brand new object. Then if you are not creating a brand new object, and just if you are altering inside that object, then your state won't be refreshed. So to do that, I'm using the spread function to create a brand new object based on the state. So now if I click a particular cell, I'm getting two values. Let's go to main.js, and here you no longer need the strict mode. Remove the strict mode, save this. Okay, perfect. Now go back to the game context. Now refresh this. So if you are dropping in, if you are just clicking in a particular column, then you are dropping in a coin there, and like that you can drop in a coin in any column. Now we have filled all the bottom row. If you click now, it will start putting into other columns. Now everything is working perfectly fine. So now we need to start writing the condition to check whether we have a winner or not. So now we need to check the game status after each and every coin drop. So this is the crucial part. Before that, I will cover a logic here. So after each and every coin drop, you need to validate whether the player has a successful connect either vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. So diagonal is little critical here because there are two diagonals. One is from left to the right, so it starts from left lower bottom to the right top, and then the next one is from left top to right bottom. So first I need to start check board status. After each and every coin drop, let flag. So this flag defines whether there is a winner or not, and we will use a function named check board status, and this gets in the state. And if the flag is true, that means we have a winner. Then state dot game status equivalent to state dot player turn. The game status is -1. If the game status is -1, that means the game is not yet started or game is ongoing, or we don't have a winner. If we have a winner, then we need to save the particular player number in the game status. So here we are using the player turn to save in this game status, and then we will create a function. So here this checkboard status function, so for every coin drop you need to validate if there is a winner or not. So here checkboard status gets state and then current row value and then the current column value. So here column value we are getting in from the cell, so I am just using data.call index. I need to get this values whichever I am passing in state, and then this is current row and then current column, and we need to validate if there is any connect in vertical, horizontal, diagonal bottom right and diagonal bottom left. If this is successful, then we need to return true. If not, we need to return false. And here I will write three functions. One is check vertical, and for this I need to pass in the state, and then for vertical I just need only the current column, or check horizontal, and this gets in state and then current row. Next one is check diagonal bottom left to top right, and this gets in state and current row and current column. For diagonal you need both the row and column information, and then I will just copy this and here check top left to bottom right. So now I will create a function and this is top left 2 and paste it again, and then check horizontal. Here this is current row, and here I will pass in the current row, and then here also I will pass in the current row. By default this function should return false. That means you don't have a winner yet. Now we will start writing the logic for vertical. So for vertical, as I mentioned, you need to worry only about column. I'm just getting in the current player from the state, and then current count I'm setting it to 0. That means the number of valid count I have. So if I go back here, so if I need to check this, then that means for this particular column, so here the row is 5, so here we will have the 5 cell. So here we are using the state.row that as the, so here we are starting from 0, that means we are starting from the top. So here I is equal to 0, I less than the state.row, I plus plus. For every iteration we are checking if the state.connect equivalent to current count, then means we are returning true. So for example, if I have value for player 1 here, so the current count is 1 and here it becomes 2. But if I have a value of player 2 here, I need to make this as 0. I should not make this as 2 because here that means this player lost his connectivity here. From here we need to start from 0. So I will set this to 0 here. So this is what we are doing here. So we are setting up the current count to 0. We are going with the iteration. So if the iteration completes and if you are not seeing anything, then we are returning false. So now with the same understanding, we will write for check horizontal. If for the particular row we have the number of columns as the cell. So here it has like 7 columns. So for this particular row we have 7 cells. So here the condition is state.column that has our upper bound and I is equal to 0, and we are validating starting from left to right, and the same condition here if the current count is incremented for each and every valid player. If we are seeing another player here, then we are completely resetting it to 0 and we are starting again from the next place. Let's take if I am placing a coin here. So here in this case, this is from diagonal bottom left to top right. So if I am placing a coin here, that means we need to capture this particular cell. If I am placing a coin here, that means we need to capture this particular cell, and from there we need to start our verification. So here we are finding the minimum of current row and then the difference of the total number of columns present to the current column. So what we are doing is, let's take this value is 4, 0. So here the row is 4 and then the column is 0. So we need to find the minimum of 4 and then the number of columns is 7. So 7 minus 1, which is 6, and 6 minus current call, which is 0. So we will get 4, 6. So we need to find the minimum of 4, 6. So we have found the minimum value is 4. Then what we need to do is we need to subtract the current row from the difference. So if you are subtracting the current row from the difference, here we have 4, 0. The 4 is the current row. Then if you are subtracting, that means we will be getting 0. So we have catched this particular row, 0th row, and then we need to add this value to the current column. So that means we will get 4. So here we have 0 as the current column. So we will get 0, 4. This is the place where we will get. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we will get this particular cell. And from this cell, so this is our start row and start column. We are using this for loop. Here in this for loop, we are setting the row index to the start row and then column index to the start column. And for row index, we need to check if it is less than the state.row, because here we will be always starting from the lower value and we are incrementing, and for column we are starting from the higher value and decrementing, because this is bottom to top. So we will be starting, the column will be always high, and then when it ends the column will be low. But in case of row, the row value lower when we start and greater when we go forward. So here we are incrementing the row and then decrementing the column index, and then for each and every iteration we are checking this validation, and we are doing the same condition here. So what we are doing is we are incrementing the current count if it matches with the current player. If it is not matches, then we are completely resetting it. We will do the same, and here for diagonal top left to bottom right is little different because we will be incrementing both values. For example, here in this case, if I am dropping a coin here, that means here the value is 4,4. So for this I need to capture 0,0. Then if I am starting from top left to bottom right, that means both the row value and then the column value will be incrementing. The minimum of row and then the column. So this cell value is 4,2. So we need to understand which is lower value, 4 or 2. So 2 is the lower value. So we got the 2 here. We need to subtract 2 from both 4 and then 2. So if you subtract 2 from 4, we will get 2. And then if you subtract 2 from 2, we will get 0. That means we are getting 2,0. So the 2,0 is 2 as the row and then column as 0. This is the particular cell from where we need to start. And we have the difference. We are subtracting the difference from current row and current column. And we are incrementing both the row and then col index. And we are validating if the row index is less than the total row and then the col index is less than the total column. We are incrementing both the row index and column index, and we are validating if it is the current player. If it is so, we are incrementing the current count, and then we are checking if they have the end state. If not, then we are resetting the current count and we are continuing with the iteration. So now we have completed our logic. So now go back to the cell.js. So here in the cell.js, we need to now write this condition here. We need to make sure if we have a winner, the other player should not drop the coin because we have defined winner. So we no longer continue with the game. So in this case, I'm just getting in the game data, and this is coming from use game state. And then here I need to validate if game data dot game status equivalent to -1. That means we don't have any winner yet. Then we don't have any winner yet. Then we are dropping the coin. If we have a winner, then we are not dropping the coin. So that's what this condition is. Now go back to the row.jsx. Here we don't need any condition change as per the game status. Go back to the board.jsx. We will wrap this inside a fragment, and here I will create another component. So in this component, a new file, and I will name this as header.jsx. So this is where we will have our application name and then the game status, who is the winner. And here for this I need couple of elements. So I need app header. So go to the elements.js. So here I have app header, and here I have CSS for header and then status and then for contents. So go to header.jsx, and here you don't need this header. Instead of that, I will put app header, and then I will just wrap this inside a div, and I will define this class name equivalent to contents, and I will define header. So this is the application name, and I will define this as header, and I will put as connect value from game status. So for that I need to get the game data constant game data, and this is coming from use game state and game data dot connect. So now we have our header, and then if we don't have a winner, then we need to define who is the player who need to drop the coin and what color he need to drop. So for that I will define game data dot game status equivalent to -1. Then I will have a small fragment here, and inside that I will put a paragraph tag, and I will define this as class name equivalent to status player game data dot player turn, and then I will just put it as class name to understand which color he need to drop. I will also put this as status, and then drop circle component here, and inside the circle component color equivalent to game data dot player turn, equivalent to 1, then we need to drop yellow. If not, we need to drop red. We'll copy this one. So this is if we don't have a winner. Let's take if you have a winner. So here player dot game data dot game status not equivalent to -1. That means we have a winner. So then game data dot game status equivalent to 1. Then that means player 1 1. If not, then player 2 1. We don't have this turn here, and here we will close this signal. Now this is perfect. Now we have all this here, and we need to import the circle. So circle is coming from, so go back to the row. You have the game state. So the game state is the hook. So you need to have the parenthesis. Now go back to the board.jsx, and here you need to have the header component. So if you have the header component, then this looks good. Go back to the application. We don't have a winner yet, so that's why we are seeing player 1 turn, drop. So now the player 2 turn, drop red. So drop here, drop here, drop here, drop here, drop here, and we have a winner because it matched vertically. So we got player 1 1. So if I refresh, I will drop here, drop here, drop here, drop here, drop here, drop here, and we have a winner horizontally. That's why we are getting player 1 1. And so if you want to check the diagonal piece, so red, and then here yellow, you can drop here, and then red, and then yellow, red, yellow, and then red, and here we have a winner. So this is the condition from diagonal bottom, so that is bottom left to top right. So if I refresh this, and we need to drop the yellow, red, and here yellow, red, and yellow, red. So the player to 1, this is the different diagonal condition, that is from top left to bottom right. So now we have all the condition. This is defaulted to 4 because that's what we have gave in our initial board state. So now we will change that. We will create a panel where we will get the parameters. Create a new component. I will name this as control panel.jsx RAFCE. First we will define a element. So this element is panel element. So I'll go to element.js, paste it here, and instead of this div tag, use that panel element, and here you define the row. So div class name equivalent to row, and then div class name equivalent to column, and this is row. And you will copy this one and paste it here again, and this instead of row, this is just input, and this is of type number, and then name is row, and then value is data dot row. So we will have this data. We will create a use state shortly, and this will change. On change, we will create handle change function, handle change, and we will create this function here. So constant handle change, and this gets in the event. So this event is coming from the input, and here we can parse this value. For every event target, we will have name and then value. The name and the value create a data. This data is a use state. So what I will do is I will create a use state hook, and this is data, and here I can define the initial value. So the initial value is row equivalent to game data dot row. To get the game data, you need to define the game data. So game data is coming from use game state and game data dot row, and you have the column game data dot column, and then next one is connect coming from game data dot. We need to set this value in set data, and then you need to use the data value here, and then just the name and then the value. So what we are doing is whenever we have a change on this particular input, we are calling this handle change, and for every event triggered, we will get the name and the value. For example, if it is coming from this particular input, then the name is row, and the value is the value which we have typed in this particular input field. So here we are creating a brand new object. We are retaining all the other values other than the row. So if it has column and the connect, we are retaining the same values, but we are just changing the row value. I will be creating another 2 new rows. So I will copy this, I will paste it here, and I will paste this again. And here instead of row, this is column, and here instead of data.row, this is data.column, and the handle change is the same. And then this is column, and then this is instead of row, this is connect, and this is connect, and this is connect. And at the end we will create a button, and here this is on click. So on click, this is where we need to create a new game. On click, we will define a create board function, and then here start new game. So we will define a function named create board, constant create board. This doesn't take any parameter because we have that in the data. Checking if the data is valid, data.row not equivalent to 0, and this is same for all other as well. So I will just copy this. This is instead of row, this is connect, instead of row, this is column, and then we will use the game dispatch hook, game data dispatch. So we have seen before with game data dispatch, we need to send the type before we have created a specific type named drop coin. So for this we will create game. We need to add this in the game constant. Go to game constant and then export constant, and then create game, create underscore game. Go to the control panel. So here create game and then data. Now go back to the game context, and here we need to have another case. So copy this and paste again. Instead of drop coin, this is create game, and then we need to return the state, and we need to change the state here. Define the board data equivalent to empty, and we need to initialize this board data array. So here we have data.row, data.column, and for each and every for loop, this will be running n square time, and for each and every iteration we will be pushing a value to this particular board data. We will be setting in board data, so we will be refreshing the game status, which will be -1, and then we will be using the data.connect, and we'll be saving that to the state column, and then row, and then player turn. That is perfectly fine. And then go to the board.jsx, because we have created the panel but we haven't referenced it. We need to reference this panel here. So here control panel we have done. We are getting some issue, not sure where it is. Inspect console, use state is not defined. We have used use state in control panel. Here it is not defined. Now we have our application. Refresh this. So now we will increase the row value to 9, and then column value to 10, and then connect value to 7. So we have created a new connect 7 application. So it got changed perfectly. It is a connect 7 application going forward, and we will validate this. Five, 6. And then we have a winner. So when you have a winner, you no longer can able to drop the coin. So if you can able to see, if I'm trying to drop the coin in any column, we are not able to drop. This is the tutorial. Hope you have learned a lot from this. So here, just to cover just about what we have learned, we have used context hook to persist the state, and we have got the data, and we have created this particular application, which is fantastic, by the way. Thanks for following along. And if you want to learn more about React, software engineering topics, programming, then you can follow this channel. I will also be posting videos on system design. Catch you in another video.